This is part 2 of our retrospective of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, and now we're going to be talking about part 5, which is the Dream Child.
Yeah.
So basically, this one, they had a new director involved. They bring back Alice from the last movie, and it involves
her
boyfriend who just graduated high school, and now, was it high school or college? I couldn't remember.
Right now, they graduated high school. They're now moving on from high school to college and all that. Because the fourth one, they were in high school. This one, they're graduating. It starts out, they're graduating. But it actually starts out where we actually get an opening sex scene where her and her boyfriend are making love to each other. And we cut into a scene where she's actually in a dream. And basically, you can feel Freddy's coming back again, yet again. And basically, he's kind of making her like feel like she's Amanda Krueger.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, she's already pregnant by what's-his-face, her boyfriend.
Dan.
And she thinks that, Freddy thinks, okay, I'm going to take the life of this child and train him and be part of him.
Yeah.
And then feed him the baby souls. Like the souls that her unborn child.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm starting to remember now.
So then we get the scene where she's back and she's kind of like Amanda, so he kind of tricks her into thinking that she is Amanda. She gets fucking raped. So Freddy comes into the world where he actually is you start out where she's giving birth, she's a nurse and she sees Amanda Krueger actually giving birth. And basically the baby comes and they realize it's a demon-looking child, and then they run out with it and it escapes, and then that's where Freddy kind of comes back together, and now he's back again.
Yeah. So basically now we get it to where Alice is starting to have more dreams yet again of Freddy, and this time she's starting to see visions of a kid that she comes across named Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob,
and she's starting to get the idea that supposedly this kid has something to do with Freddy. Yeah. So her friends that she comes across, they're having, yet again, dreams of Freddy, and they're getting killed off one by one by Freddy. Now, this one, I can say that other than
this is where the Nightmare on Elm Street started falling apart.
Yeah, this is where they overdo a lot of the comedy, which I thought was just so over the top and very just out of place.
And versus some of the deaths, like Dan's death, where he becomes that ghostwriting creature, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, though there was
there are some creative deaths in a way, but overall, not really.
Well, I was going to tell you that the death for Dan was actually a lot longer than what they expected. The reason why they had to cut it out is because there's a scene where he's on like his hands are getting all bloodied and shit, and it's going into more detail and all that.
And that was pretty clever. That was pretty brutal. I also thought that was cool with the comic book guy.
Yeah,
the comic book friend, and then Freddy brings him his world and turns into Super.
I do like that.
That was cool.
It was cool seeing that, but I did feel that scene was kind of out of place because it just didn't feel like a Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, because they overdid the comedy in that scene. And Freddy's just like, and they're doing like superhero themes. I'm like, okay, this is like not feeling like a Freddy movie.
Well,
it could be funny, but I want these movies to be more serious.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That whole scene, it was very bloodless too. It didn't have no fucking blood.
It did because they did the comic book kind of feel.
Where he's actually an actual
blood
paper.
Was the color.
Yeah,
the coloring.
And you have that weird. Well, one death I do like was the part where the girl is getting overstuffed with food, and then he says, "You are what you eat."
Yeah, and then bone with the teeth and all that stuff, and then I think 5 was the one that did the. Did it bring her back at the cafe, or was that 4?
That was the 5th. I think it was
the pizza. The pizza one where he's feeding her the pizza. I can't remember that. I think that was actually.
That was actually 4. Yeah,
we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, that was 4.
Anyway, so 5. She's still living at home now with her dad,
and she's getting. There was like this weird subplot that I thought was kind of out of place. They have this scene where these people come in that are trying to possibly adopt the kid when he's born, and she goes into this argument
because Dan dies. And it's Dan's parents that want to adopt. It's actually Dan's parents.
Yeah, this scene, even though it was giving her more of fleshing more of her character out, I did feel it was kind of out of place because they were kind of overdoing the drama in that part.
Yeah, they was, and The music, the score gets weaker in this film.
And the comedy, even though
I can laugh at Freddy, and it's cool to laugh at Freddy, but overall,
they did too much.
I just want
of
these
it.
movies more. I want these movies more serious. They're better when they're serious.
Yeah, because this one, I'm don't get me wrong. I love Robert Englund in all the films because he is Freddy, of course, and he plays it always perfectly. But what I'm saying was another part I had a problem with was. I didn't like the whole kid in the movie. I thought he was annoyed the piss out of me.
Which is a trivia note. He's actually a kid that plays a cameo in Jurassic Park.
At the beginning, yeah.
At the beginning.
Where he's saying, it's like, that's not scary.
Yeah, and he's talking about the Velociraptor. That's the same kid. But anyways, yeah, the kid was really annoying. And I was really kind of like blown up by the continuity. I was kind of confused with the film because she's pregnant. She sees the kid. But Freddy's still trying to feed the souls that he's killing of her friends in the kid, so Freddy can be born as a human again. Somewhat concept, I guess you could say it's okay, and it's cool what they're trying, but I think they failed at it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. You know, and I do like the film in some regard. Like, for example, I do like the flashbacks they show of Amanda Krueger and how it actually shows how she got raped by 1,000 maniacs.
Yeah, and actually, Robert Englund plays
one of them
where
he's walking by.
Freddy, he's sitting there laughing. He's like, he knows. And he's planning it, and it shows his human form.
Yeah, which was cool because it was
the first time I think we see it.
No, he was.
No, in later films. I'm just saying.
No. To be fair, in part 2, it shows him very beginning as a bus driver.
True, yeah.
So it's not the first time, but I do like that we at least get a glimpse that this is going to be like actual Freddy Krueger when he's born.
Yeah.
So I do like that scene because you see all like the dudes trying to fuck her and all that.
Now there is a really stop motion out of date scene in this film. There's a part where the girl's, and this girl, I'm going to talk about her in a second. The black girl, she's jumping off, and then that thing turns into glove that Freddy's saying.
I think so, yeah.
It looks really outdated, like hell. It doesn't that really doesn't look good. The stop motion was used in part 3 and it looked good. 4 they used stop motion, bring them back. That looked good. That still holds up. But this stop motion in this scene, it looked weird. It just looked, and it looked like that, kind of like the Children of Corn 3, where they did that stop motion part that you could watch now. When that ending part where it really looks really out.
It does. It looks cheesy as hell.
Cheesy as hell. Yeah.
Well, the thing is that I do commend them for at least giving a more darker look to the film. Even though they do a lot of comedy, the film does have a cool blue filter that I do like.
Yeah.
But it's just that a lot of the effects they use for some of the death scenes, they look kind of outdated.
I just felt like they didn't try so hard with the death scenes. They were pretty much really not. I don't know what you would call artistic with it. They weren't thinking with it. They weren't directed, or they weren't visually compelling. Yeah, and I didn't really care for much of the death scenes. But anyways, we get her she finds out that Freddy's actually feeding her friends are getting picked off one by one, and the souls are actually going inside her unborn child. But yet we're seeing the child. Him right there. This movie's very confusing. It's actually contradicting a lot of itself. So I'm just it was pretty much really confusing. I don't know what they were trying to go for here. And basically, she pretty much defeats Freddy again.
And this time you have the kid actually defeating Freddy.
Yeah, the kid's turns into Freddy, kind of like a Freddy-ish look to him.
Freddy Jr.
He's scores up Krueger, and then he does he vomits on him or whatever he threw at him, and it pretty much fucking just made all the souls come out and ripped Freddy apart.
Yeah.
And then the girls also that was a cool part where Freddy's coming out of Alice in that scene.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
They're sitting there fighting each other, and he's coming out of her belly and all that stuff. That was cool, but overall, I was really turned down with this film pretty much. I didn't really care for it. It's a 50-50. I'm going to say it's a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, it's a 5.5 for me because there are some things I do like a little more than you did, like some of the visual effects in some parts, like the actual cinematography and some of the death scenes. A couple of death scenes were alright, but the whole overall story where it's just the whole kid and he's basically...
I just wasn't really feeling with this, and Freddy just feels like he starts being a jokester. If he gets any worse, which he does, I feel like I can almost hang out with him.
Yeah, this is where
they really turned off with this film. Yeah. It's 5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The movie does too much comedy with this one, and like they don't do it to an extreme with the later movies. Well, the next one does, but it's still at the point where you can tell the movie's hanging on just a thread, and then it's about to be fucking destroyed. So now we get to the absolute worst Nightmare on Elm Street.
Worst.
Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare.
This one is so bad. When I go and relive this fucking franchise, I gotta skip this piece of shit. I'm sorry, or I at least speed through it. I can't watch this film. This movie is just fucking, I don't know what the fuck they were doing with this. Now we're at Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare.
Yeah, now...
Part 6, yeah.
Now, that basically, this one is basically... What's weird is that the continuity of this is kind of weird, because the movie starts where it says it's 10 years in the future, and basically, it's kind of taking like a dystopian, or not, kind of a weird, like, futuristic kind of setting.
The thing is, Alice is gone, so why would he... Alice is now dubbed into Nightmare on Elm Street, so how the fuck did she not get to die?
Well, this is what I was going to say. The movie, okay, here's what I thought when I first watched it. The movie starts with a guy who is on a plane and he's dreaming and all that, and it was just kind of a funny scene where he's talking to the old lady and she gets pulled out and she's like, "Don't be a pussy," you know.
Yeah.
And she gets pulled out and then he sees Freddy and all that. Now
he's in a witch thing.
Yeah, it's like, "I'll get you, my pretty."
Freddy, yeah.
Now here's what kind of threw me off for a second. The movie, the main guy, the first character we see, John. I thought that was the same kid that was in the last movie, in part 5. Because it makes you think that the film is going to basically be his son, still alive.
Her son.
Or her son, sorry. Yeah. You kind of think that it's probably...
Yeah, but continuity would be fucked up because it's only 10 years. He'd be a 10-year-old from birth, if you think about it. So they couldn't have done that. It's just the thing is like... Alice did not die, so what was so good about her that she defeated Freddy where he doesn't fuck with her anymore? Or we assume that she did die eventually?
Yeah, that we're kind of assuming that.
This is really just like, it doesn't even care about the other films. It just does its own thing. Really.
Well, and basically, we get it to the believe where, okay, so he goes into, what I do like is that they go into this, they set up where he goes to a mental institution, yet again, like we saw in part 3, where he comes across other kids that were introduced by Breckenmeyer in an early appearance.
Well, this is actually like not really a mental institution. It's kind of like a harbor house type thing, like a rehabilitation. They have freedoms to do what they want. But the thing is they kind of go with a kind of like a post-apocalyptic feel to it. Because it's like really foggy looking in this film.
It is.
And it's basically saying that pretty much Freddy is really like destroyed the world. He's killed everybody.
He's killed, but here's where they really screw the continuity up. So every scene that we see Freddy, there's a scene where Freddy puts in signs where he says every place has an Elm Street. So basically, we're saying that every place has an Elm Street, he kills.
Yeah. Well, not only that, they go into this apocalyptic kind of world, and I mean, that's what I felt like. It was kind of apocalyptic.
It did, because it was very empty, it didn't show anybody hardly.
It was just in this, like, this house was like the only standing, and you really get, this is where I have a problem with. So you're talking about it's Springwood, Ohio, but why does it look so deserty? Why is it, like, not in fucking Ohio?
It looks a lot deserted.
Yeah, and like, now they're saying it's like Arizona/Wisconsin. So it's really like, okay, so how did Springwood pick itself up and move to another fucking state?
Yeah.
Like, this movie's just like, the poorly written is just...
That
it is so poorly written.
They introduce us to some characters that are just very forgettable. Like, the only character I thought was kind of funny was Breckenmeyer's character, and I also like the girl, the Maggie. Yeah, and also the girl Maggie.
Which, funny, because the main blonde girl in this film actually resembles Alice.
She kind of does, yeah.
With the whole ninja-y type thing, but it's not Alice. That was the downfall. Why couldn't they not made her Alice again?
I know, it would have made more sense.
Yeah, all the movies have always been very good with continuity and in order, but this film really destroyed that.
That's what I'm saying. You know, this film... These characters are just basically, they don't have much personality to them. They're just there. They don't really come across as very compelling. And when you see them get killed, they get killed in some of those really stupidest ways. Like the scene where, okay, before we get into the one we're going to usually talk about, there's a scene where the dude is getting killed by the fucking where his ears go blow up,
and then he throws a thing and then attacks, and it just makes him blow up.
Now I like that idea, but the way they played it off in the movie was just kind of weird. It was just like,
well, it's because Freddy's joking so much.
The comedy was just overplayed way too much in this movie.
Yeah, it was.
And also another weird death is we get the death of John, who's supposed... Because what threw me off was that we're supposed to be following this guy throughout probably the core of the movie, like the first one, and he gets killed halfway through, and he falls from in the distance, and then he falls on like a
He's basically like a very poorly written Tina part.
Yeah. But what threw me off was we're probably led to believe that he has connections to the previous movies somehow. But we don't get to explain with that.
They don't, and he's really not a character in the other ones.
That's what I'm saying. It would have been it would have been more interesting if they would have.
That's why the continuity works so well, even though I didn't really care for 5. 1 through 5 goes in order, but 6 is the only one that's really just like. And you got to think this is when they're going to end Freddy for good.
Yeah, because
you got to make this movie the best.
Yeah. Now, there's also another thing that really threw me off, too.
It's insulting to know that this was going to end Freddy.
Yeah, the comedy was really way overplayed, too much.
Yeah.
Even though, okay, I'll give you two comedy parts I liked.
Johnny
Depp's cameo where...
Is this his brain on drugs?
Is this your brain on drugs? And then he gets hit by a pan by Freddy Krueger. He's like, yeah, what are you on?
Yeah. Now, because the comedy is so overdone, and especially with the Freddy glove, I gotta say that this is probably one of the first Freddy films that you actually feel like you can hang out with him.
Yeah.
He is so cool in this film. I really would like to meet Freddy in part 6 and smoke a doobie with his ass and drink beer with him.
Yeah.
Like, he seemed like he'd be a cool fucking dude to hang out with. He'd be funny.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like the whole...
That is not fucking Freddy.
That's what I'm saying. That really completely destroys anything we had in the other movies. Also... Even though I do have kind of a soft spot for it, it is cheesy as hell seeing him play a fucking with the video game part where he's got the power glove.
Yeah,
where he's like, now you forgot you don't have the power glove,
and then the dude keeps banging his head in the fucking ceiling.
Yeah,
and then his ultimate death is him falling in what we see in all the other Freddy films, where it's like his throat or his stomach or something. Yeah, and he just like. He's like, game over, or some shit like that.
Yeah. Now, when we get to the ending of the film...
Now, 3/4 in this film, and this is, like, some of the pros I do like about this, we actually get to go all the way back to Freddy.
Yeah.
When he's a child.
When they show the flashbacks, when he's a young kid, and you get to see Alice Cooper playing his dad, I do like that, because you can see the abuse he went through and all that. I'm like...
Well, not only that, we're talking about the one where he's actually, like 10 years old.
That's what I'm saying, where he's in class and he's killing rats.
And this kind of reminds me of Rob Zombie's Halloween remake in 2007, where he's actually killing animals.
Rats and stuff.
Yeah, he's likes to kill animals and shit. And he's getting picked on, and then they go to they kind of rush it to where he's like 17. That's where Alice Cooper is dead.
Which I thought was pretty good. You know, he's like, all right, Freddy, come take your medicine. He's like, all right, well, thank you, sir. I need it. And then he starts, and then he kills him.
Love it. Yeah.
But I do love that. And also, I like the whole flashback where it shows him as a father. Because we show that he was actually married.
He killed his wife.
And he killed his daughter.
Well, he killed his wife.
Oh, I'm sorry, he killed his
wife, and then he told his daughter, who is a character we learned that is in the movie, one of the teachers, and he kills the mother, and he looks at the daughter and he goes, "You would never tell." And what I loved about that scene, before the girl watches the mother die, Freddy kill his wife, the daughter actually goes into a cellar, and you actually get to see all these different kind of gloves that he has.
I remember that,
He did make all kinds of different kind of gloves that looked pretty neat. Like, he had one that was made out of razor blades. He just did all these little different studies. That was pretty cool. But other than that, and then Freddy does his thing where he tells his daughter, like, hey, you know you would never tell, would you? And she's crying now and all that stuff. But we find out that little girl is one of the kids in this film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually the teacher.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, the movie... It has some things that are cool. Like, I do like the flashbacks they use, but also I do like the whole, how we're finally starting to reveal that Freddy was actually, a father and everything. But also, I do like also the, I like the soundtrack, like especially the beginning songs they use. I'm Awake Now by Goo Goo Dolls. Yeah. I do like that. The soundtrack was pretty good.
Now, all right. Now that we get this, keep in mind, people, this movie was supposed to be the final Freddy. It was already bad enough that they made the worst fucking movie. Hate it, but we get the most anticlimactic closure to him.
Because basically what happens
Holy shit.
Maggie... Okay, here's where we get into a little background. There's a scene... Okay, Maggie who's Freddy's daughter, goes into this dream world, and she's able to use these glasses. Now, for those of you who don't know, this scene was actually shot in 3D for the last 10 minutes, which is... Because when the movie came out in theaters, people gave them glasses that they could wear in the scene, but the patron told them that you had to wear the glasses in the last 10 minutes. So when you watch the film, and there are actual 3D versions of this that exist on DVD. When you watch the film in the last 10 minutes, it actually goes into 3D mode, which the actual visual effects they use look pretty cool.
I guess that's where you can kind of say that it was okay, cool, because that world they're in is actually Freddy's brain.
It is, yeah.
And it looked like that one movie called Cell or something.
The Cell with Jennifer Lopez.
It kind of reminded me of that scene, like that movie with that scene.
Yeah. But basically, she goes into Freddy's mind, and she brings him out into the real world, and we get one of the most lamest deaths ever, because basically what happens is, she throws a dynamite on his ass,
in his chest,
and stabs in his chest, and he
pretty much does a one-liner, goes, "Kids," and he just does this whole 3D. They're copying out over the 3D.
They have this where his head explodes and he goes in the screen, which probably would be cool in 3D, but it would have been a weird fucking death.
We forgot to mention this. This is a big thing that I did like, and we actually learned this. The same things that go into Freddy are the same things that go into Jason. You remember when Freddy's burning? The snake things. And that is actually cool, because in Jason Goes to Hell, those things are the thing that gets into Jason and it comes out of Jason.
It does, yeah. And I thought that was pretty cool.
That's clever.
The effects are kind of cheesy nowadays if you watch it, but even still, I do like how that basically motivates Freddy to basically kill children.
Yeah.
You know?
So, this movie was really fucking bad.
It was.
And to be able to think that this was going to close it out was... It should be sacrilege on fucking horror films.
Yeah. Other than that last half they used before, like the last quarters, the rest of the film is just awful.
Yeah, this movie overall is really fucking awful. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. It's an F for me.
I'll be a little nice and give it probably a 3.5, because there were a couple of things I liked more than you did, but it's the worst of the franchise,
yes.
So, and now what we didn't mention earlier was that there was also a short-lived TV series that came out, and it was called Freddy's Nightmares. Now, basically what this TV series was the pilot was showing the origin of how Freddy, who he was, or what Freddy did when he killed the children. He's on trial and everything, and it shows the parents actually killing him.
Which is cool, but they also give Freddy kind of like a Tales from the Crypt.
It is. He basically bookends the segments, which they have Robert Englund Black playing him, and you basically get the whole premise is you're starting to see Freddy's nightmares on how he actually gets nightmares himself, and stuff, which is cool. But I never got a chance to watch it. But we just figured we touch base on that because that is part of the franchise.
Yeah.
So now we get to
1994,
where between Freddy's Dead and the next movie, there was a lot of debate whether or not they were going to do another film.
Because they knew how bad the sixth one
the last one did. And it didn't make hardly any of its box office material.
Yeah.
Basically, Wes Craven was brought in to direct a new film. What he wanted to do was, he wanted to make a film where not only did he close the franchise for good, but also do something a little different where it's not part of the series.
And what's really cool is this film also, this is kind of get the screen feel. And this is what started in the good famous 90s of what Wes Craven, where all his movies felt like a screen feel to it.
Yeah.
Where it was making fun, touching bases on franchises.
Yeah, so now...
because they actually touch bases in every film in this one. This one's called Wes Craven's New Nightmares. It's the 7th installment.
So now we have where the movie starts with a making of a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie that they're working on by Wes Craven, and it shows Heather Langenkamp and her husband working on this film.
Basically, everybody in this film is playing themselves.
Yeah, which is really good idea to begin with, because not only are you playing at the idea of satire, but also doing a whole meta kind of thing where it's a film within a film.
Yep.
So now we have it to where the movie starts with Heather Langenkamp and her husband. They're working on a film for Wes Craven, a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And what they don't realize is that this glove that her husband makes actually goes berserk and starts killing 2 of the crew members.
And that was pretty fucking
That
brutal.
was a brutal fucking claw.
See, especially that thing that went in that guy's fucking heart.
Yeah.
And then the one went in the dude's throat, and it just looked so realistic.
Yeah.
And they're actually trying to shoot a Freddy. Man, this is actually a good concept they're going for in this film.
So and it just happens to be a dream. But and now basically we get into the story of Heather Langenkamp, who's playing herself, and she's married and has a child.
Yep.
And as the film goes on, you're starting to notice that Heather Langenkamp's son, Dylan, is starting to have dreams where he's starting to
dream about
Freddy, and he's starting to act very unusual.
And basically, Heather Langenkamp, she starts thinking, as the movie progresses, she starts realizing that the dreams that her movies coming to life. Even Robert Englund and Wes Craven and the guy who owned New Line Cinema,
Bob Shaye,
they all play in this film, and they are also telling Heather Langenkamp that they're having bad dreams about this movie.
Yeah,
and about a guy like Freddy Krueger, they're dreaming of him.
Who's a darker entity of Freddy Krueger.
Yeah,
so
and this brings back Freddy back to his darker ways.
Yeah, so...
And not only that, they do touch some really good things. They do a cool-ass fucking glove, and Freddy with this trench coat is actually fucking creepy.
The look they give Freddy in this one is fucking scary.
Yeah, it is.
I admit, when I was younger, to be honest, this is the first film I watched of the Nightmare on Elm Street films. Because before I even watched the original movie, this was the first one I watched. Mm-hmm. And growing up, this movie scared the piss out of me.
Yeah.
So,
and basically, what's really cool is that they go with this script where actually, as she progresses, she finds out that the script is writing itself.
Yeah, because
so it's basically making her go back to the original movies. It's making her life going by the movie concept, but it's also writing its own script. And she later reveals and finds a script that is actually writing itself.
Yeah, because basically what happens is she gets recruited by Bob Shaye that Wes Craven in the film as himself wants to do another Nightmare movie, and she wants Heather to come back, and she's doing a press tour and everything.
But the whole movie of New Nightmare is actually going on and thinking of it's actually not only is it making her relive the scenes from part 1, but it's also writing its own script. So she realizes that her whole life is being written as a script,
which is really creepy because it's just the whole vibe that reality versus fiction actually comes to play with the demon in the film, which I really do enjoy, especially when you have scenes where she's talking to Wes Craven, and he's basically saying that he's had dreams about Freddy and all this shit is coming to life.
Even though it does have some brutality, but for what it's worth, it's not really a brutal, and it's not trying to be so brutal, and it's being more of a scary psychological film.
Yeah.
And I still like that, even though that everybody was like, oh, it should just be blue. For once, as a movie, it's not really too terribly bloody, even though it is, but it's kind of toned down a little bit. It's not really trying to get body counts in this film.
Yeah, it's basically the reminiscent.
Psychological.
It's reminiscent of the first one again, where there is still a low body count, but you're still getting the brutality that Freddy does.
Yeah.
Because what I love about this one is I like the actual satire they use with the whole making of aspect, and also I do love
and they bring us back from the first one, and what I really loved about, they actually were able to track down all the people who played in all the other movies
except Johnny Depp. Now there is a story about that, because Johnny Depp was supposed to be in a scene where, it was a scene that happened where they're at the funeral. Yeah. Because what happens is Heather Langenkamp's husband in the movie gets killed by Freddy,
which is cool because like I said, the movie's taking tone and scenes from the previous 5 films it's ignoring 6. Everybody's ignoring 6, but it's taking premises from all the first 5. Like Heather Langenkamp's husband dies the same way Dan dies in 5.
Yeah, where he's basically falling asleep, and then Freddy comes and like grabs himself. First he's like fucking with him, like kind of
rubbing
his
his dick,
and then he starts like clawing his ass off. That was brutal as fuck. Yeah. And then he crashes and everything. So there was actually a scene that Johnny Depp was supposed to be in at the funeral, because in the funeral scene, it shows all the cast members from the previous movies, most of them anyway.
Yeah, basically it's mostly the first movie.
Yeah, but all the main cast from the first movie come back in the scene, and the reason why Johnny Depp couldn't make it was because Wes Craven was scared to approach him, because since Johnny Depp became a more famous actor in the 90s, he was scared that Johnny Depp wouldn't accept the role. But I think there was something I read where Johnny Depp said that he would have been happy to return if he would have had that scene.
Yeah.
But anyway, that happens, and so basically Heather is dealing with not only basically trying to deal with her son, but also she's dealing with a lot of the reminiscent of her life as a film.
If you think about it, it's kind of like pretty much rebooting 5.
Yeah.
In a way, because it's doing the right way of doing the son thing, where Freddy's after a little boy in his life and trying to be like to get inside him and everything.
Yeah.
But we also, when we're like pretty much 3/4 of this film, scenes from the movie pop up throughout this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Of the first movie, 84, and she realizes, her kid is watching the first movie, which is so fucking brutal. And some of the scenes that she remembers from being as an actress in the part 1, like, for instance, the babysitter dies the same way Tina dies.
Yeah, where she's all on the walls and stuff, and he's like, "Hey, Eddie, hey, Dylan, ever play Skin the Cat?"
And then, like, he kills her, kind of like similar he does with Tina in the first movie. But then we get to like where like he escapes from the hospital, and pretty much we get another thing that they take from part 3,
where he's in the clouds. That scene's still
and he fuck with that kid, and he's like trying to almost get him run over. And shit.
You know what's also creepy about that is the part where there's like all these Freddys that are showing up.
Yeah, I know. Like
that scene alone, still this day scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, it scares the fuck out of me. That's pretty creepy. And then as she goes back home, she realizes, talking to John Saxon's character as himself, she realizes and looks at him that he's wearing a cop uniform.
And she's starting to have the white hair again.
And then white hair again, and she's wearing the same thing, and her house turns the original house. And then she realizes, oh, fuck. She's part of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I really do. But you know what I also love, too? I love the relationship between her and her son. Because I thought them two had fantastic
Which is the kid that we've seen in Kindergarten Cop and Pet Sematary.
Full House.
Full House. We've seen him in a bunch of shit. And, yeah, they bring him... he plays Dylan, and... Yeah, the relationship was good. And then they also go... This is where they're pretty much in hell.
Yeah.
Where they're fighting Freddy one last time. Because he complains about his dinosaur getting cut, and then they realize that Freddy is sneaking up through his bed. And they also do a scene where he actually comes out of the bed like he did in part 1.
Yeah.
So it's like a bunch of parts of... The coolest parts of 1 through 5 is being placed in this film.
Yeah.
We're living the scene again.
Which is cool. I love that they're able to basically say, the first movie is in our world. Which is really... I love that idea that comes to life.
And then basically, be honest with you, versus 6, they actually give a fucking closure because he actually turns into Satan. Demon fucking Freddy. Satan.
Yeah.
And then he blows the fuck up, and then he's in fucking... And you actually get the feel of hell because he really was in fucking hell. And then they defeated Freddy, and... Man, that's a fucking ending closure.
That is. Yeah. That's how you properly close the Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Because not only do you get final closure for Freddy in a good way, but also it ends with... Basically, she's reading a script from Wes Craven that she's saying that's actually remaking the movie.
Yeah.
That's actually part of the movie, which I thought was really clever.
Yeah. So
this
was pretty, and this is like you get the feel of Wes Craven. This is when he starts before he gets to the Scream. This is 2 years before Scream comes, and this is like you could get the '90s Screamy feel, and this is what started it. I believe this is the movie that started Wes Craven into doing that Scream Philly type movies that he made eventually down the road. But yeah, this is a 9 out of 10 for me. This is my third favorite.
This is probably a 9.5 or about 9.25 out of 10 for me. It's got It's probably my second. Or it's probably my third.
It's my third.
It's favorite. My second favorite. Like I love it about the same I did with 3, but there's still parts of it that I like a little more than 3. But it's still great. Like I still love 3 a lot.
See, it's my third favorite for me.
Yeah. So between this and the next film, there was a long break we had between this film and the next one. Now we're not going to go too much into this one because we already talked about it. But basically, the next one was Freddy vs. Jason 2003, and we already touched base on it in our last retrospective. This basically
was the closure of Robert Englund. This is it. Yeah. This is his final role.
This was the last film to feature Robert Englund, and while we do think the movie has problems, it's still an enjoyable Nightmare on Elm Street and Jason film because not only do you get them two clash together, but you also get to see in some parts you get to see the dark fucking Freddy like we saw in New Nightmare.
Yeah, we do in some parts, but overall, and it was a pretty good look to him, and some of it still holds up. I don't want to go into detail because we did it more in Jason retrospective because overall this movie, the problems with the movie, it does feel more Jason-y.
Yeah, it's more of a... Well, and plus...
Freddy kind of does his parts, but he's really not much of this
because he only has one kill. The rest of the film is all pretty much Jason.
Yeah.
Actually, before the remake came out, it was announced that they were going to have a new actor for Freddy. And this is where the internet basically crashed on it. Now, keep in mind, this is before we got... This is actually before...
You gotta think that we've seen Robert Englund. He's played this character for so long. And he said, I am no longer a part of this. Yeah. You're going to get to know a new Freddy.
Now, here's a little thing that you probably didn't know. The film originally, and I heard about this, that before they hired the next guy, Billy Bob Thornton was going to play Freddy.
Oh.
They actually announced that there were rumors. I don't know if it was rumors or not, but they said that Billy Bob Thornton was going to play Freddy, and then they cast Jackie Earle Haley, which is Jackie Earle Haley. Before he
is part of Wes Craven type films. He was in Hills Have Eyes, I believe, wasn't he?
No.
I thought he was. I thought he played one of the creatures from that.
No, but here's the surprising thing. Robert Englund actually approved him playing Freddy. He actually said that he has a lot of respect for Jackie Earle Haley and actually thought that he could pull it off.
You know what No, check this out. Don't quote me on this. Jackie Earle Haley, I heard, was actually supposed to be in the original in '84.
I believe, possibly.
Or there was like a connection that Jackie Earle Haley recommended somebody, or no, I think that they actually wanted Jackie Earle Haley to play actually Johnny Depp's part. It was one of those.
I think it was the original.
They did do a thing where I did see Robert Englund say the thing was Jackie Earle Haley was actually approached for the part
of Glenn in the original.
Of the original, and then they went with Johnny Depp. Yeah, that's what it was. It was actually Jackie Earle Haley. Good trivia note was he was actually supposed to be Johnny Depp's character. He was going to play Johnny Depp, and then he didn't sign on with it. Johnny Depp got the part. Something simple like that is what happened.
But anyway, and now with the 2010 remake, when it was announced, a lot of people went berserk with the fact that they cast a different actor. Yeah. And I can tell that a lot of people were going to be thrown off from the start.
I was 50-50. I was kind of like worried it wasn't Robert Englund, but I was also interested to see what they were going to do with them.
So now,
because we're in this new time, what are they going to create?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to probably be one of the few. Keep in mind, I actually like the remake. Yeah. I know a lot of people hate it, and that's fine. Everyone has their own opinion and everything. But I actually think that for what they did to actually remaking the original film, but also kind of doing its own little thing, I thought worked for me.
All right. Before we go into detail of the film, I'll give you my opinions on this. It's going to be mixed with me. It's a mix. I'm going to say that it did a lot better than the disappointing reboot of Friday the 13th, which I'm a Jason man myself. That's my favorite slasher, and that happened to be my most disappointing out of all the slasher films. So, anyways, we get to a new girl playing Nancy, which is played by
I'm trying to think. Rooney Mara.
You know her from Girl
Dragon Tattoo, and also in Hook. I'm sorry, in Pan.
Pan, yeah.
And she's a This was her first film, and also Social Network.
Yeah, Social Network, which he wasn't really much in the film.
Yeah, but anyway, we have it. Basically, the story goes. It has yet again, like the original film. It has a group of teenagers who are being being killed off one by one by a supernatural entity that haunts them in their dreams. Yeah. Now, I'll tell you right now, even though
I do give respect for this reboot, they didn't actually go carbon copying from the original.
No, they did.
We actually start at the famous cafe that you see in 4 and 5. They actually put it in this one.
Yeah.
And then you get the guy, Kellen Lutz.
He
plays the Rod guy from 1.
No, he's the equivalent of... No, there's another character for that. There's another character.
Yeah, that one dude. Yeah, I remember, yeah. I don't know what he's trying to play.
He's basically I think he's the ex of the blonde girl, the teen equivalent, I believe.
Yeah, he is, because I remember she's like, oh, there he's over there, and he goes, I'm not talking to him. Mm-hmm. And then the Dean equivalent, the Rod equivalent, is with her, and no, he's with, he goes to a restaurant eating with the Johnny Depp equivalent, which
Glenn.
is played by...
I forgot his name, but, I know the dude, I forgot the actor's name, but I've seen the guy in other things. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. But basically, the movie starts. I'll admit that the first like 5-10 minutes, I love a lot because I love the fact that for the little time that he has, I thought Kellen Lutz was pretty good.
Yeah, I do love the creepiness of him going to that restaurant, and then he turns away, and then you see this. I will praise this. They made Freddy's glove like bigger and longer, and the blades look fucking brutal as fuck. And he's like. And then, all that, and then, there's a scene where he turns around, and he's like, Freddy's like that.
Yeah,
and
where he slashes.
No, before that.
Yeah.
And he goes, and he wakes up, and he's talking to Nancy and Teen and all them, and then that's where he this movie, actually, I praise for the micro naps, to go more detail in the micro naps, and then, that's the part where Freddy's stabs him right in the throat, and it goes in detail of slowly just cutting his throat.
I do love that part because I like how the brutality they cut where it's cutting his throat and everything, and you see him fall down. And I also love, now you probably didn't catch this, but I love the music they play in that scene where it's dreams. That whole scene where it's playing that music. I thought that was very intense and very suspenseful.
Well, it was clever.
Yeah, but anyway, but also. As the film goes on, we start to see that the characters are unraveling. Here's what I like about the film. I like that there is this idea that, it's really executed how the people are actually seeing they're very sleazy how they're able to still be dreaming while they're awake. I love that.
That was cool. That's called micronaps. And what they did and what they didn't do with the original movies was they actually go in detail where they can actually be awake and fucking just see images of Freddy like a shadow and just disappear, and then come in and he's getting closer, and he disappears, and he's fucking over here. It's whoa, what the fuck? That was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, what I also like too is there's parts in the film where you can't tell if they're really awake or if they're still dreaming, which I really do like. Because
I do like that because it kind of creeps you to know what is Freddy going to be awake in the day? He's going to come out of nowhere? That I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and also I'm probably one of the few that says this, but I do like Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy. Yes, he's not as good as Robert Englund because Robert Englund's the master. I'm saying that for what he had to work with, Haley at least brought back the darkness of Freddy Krueger. I liked that he was able to still keep all the taunts and all the intimidation present. Yeah. And he does kind of blend in some of the humor towards the end, but that's a minor thing.
Okay. I'm going to say I did like Jackie Earle, I do like Jackie Earle, or Haley. I can't say his name.
Jackie Earle Haley.
I did like him, but there are some things I don't... I'm going to say that some of the cons is really not his fault. I'm going to say, I didn't like the look. I didn't really care for the look. I do get the whole melted face, but they actually accidentally kind of made him look like a rat a little bit. I thought they could have done a little bit better on the...
No, I disagree, because I do like the fact that the filmmakers at least worked with real burnt victims, and they made him look like a real burnt victim.
Yeah, but even burnt victims, I heard, said that was unrealistic.
My brother said that, and while I'm sure he has his own opinion, that's fine, but for me, I thought it's as real as it could look.
I don't. I disagree. I thought that the way they kind of shaped his face a little bit was too ratty looking. He looked like a rat face, and I kind of really didn't care for the look. I thought they could have done better. They could do better. I thought there was other looks that they don't have to do necessarily copying Robert Englund, but they could have done their own thing a little bit better. I thought the look was more disappointing. I did like Jackie O'Haley's like performance wise, but I didn't like, and I don't blame Jackie for this. I actually blame more the screenwriter for this, or the writer overall for this. I didn't care. I guess you could say that he's kind of paying homage, you could say, with Robert, but I didn't care for how he overused a lot of Robert Englund's lines, like, your mouth says no, no. Your mouth said yeah, yes. Or there's a lot of shit he copied off of Robert Englund.
Though there's probably only one part I remember him saying that, where it's the part toward the end where Nancy is in like that puddle, and then he says, and then she's like, "Fuck you," and then he's like, "It's like sounds like fun."
That's something that he did that I didn't hear.
But I didn't hear that whole "your mouth says no, no."
Yeah,
part.
he does.
I did not remember that shit.
Yeah, he does that when she's. He actually has her pinned down in bed. He does that. I remember it. He does.
But for the majority of the time, though, for what he did,
I'm still giving the guy credit because I'm giving the guy credit because I know that there's not a lot of people that can play this part, and I know that they could have gotten a lot of worse people performance wise, and a lot of it isn't Jackie's fault. I'm not blaming Jackie at all. He did good. I'm blaming more. I'm kind of doing more behind the fucking scenes.
Yeah,
like the makeup, they could have done better. The lines is not his fault. He's going by what the director is telling him to say. The director thought it was clever to say a lot of shit that Robert used to say.
Well,
that's more the director.
I can see your point, but it's just I didn't like I said earlier. I just felt like the more the Robert Englund-esque that he did was mainly in the last act.
Yeah,
because the first two acts, I thought he was doing his own.
Yeah,
shit.
he was doing his own shit in the first act. It was the second act that he kind of like. I guess. All right, I can understand paying the homage to Robert Englund by saying a line or two, but he overdone it in that last act.
Wow.
And so I was kind of a little disappointed in some of that. Now, I do praise him, Nightmare on Elm Street reboot for this. So, because this is what iconic slasher reboots are afraid of. I am one of the few people that really praise Rob Zombie's 2007 Halloween.
Me too.
I fucking thought, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not biased in this film. Halloween, out of the four major slashers, Michael Myers is my least favorite. That, to me, to this day, is the best reboot. And what I liked about that was, so the backstory, people are afraid to copy in by starting it out and working its way to the killer. So I gotta praise that Nightmare on Elm Street did smart by actually coming out in the middle of it and showing us the detail.
Oh, I love that too.
Where he's running, he's like, I didn't do anything. Yeah, and then it actually goes in these girls, and what's really clever is these kids are starting to remember what Freddy did to them.
Yeah.
And, all right, they changed it up. In the original, he was a child murderer. This one, he's a
rapist.
He's a rapist. He was fucking these children.
Yeah. Now, here's what I like, because I know a lot of people hate the remake for changing this, but I do at least commend them for at least doing that, because for one, look, I'm not trying to advocate. I'm not trying to be like, oh yeah, it's good that we are at least seeing rape in a movie. No, I'm just saying for what they did, at least explain more explicitly with the character.
Yeah,
I thought worked well with Freddy and how he's actually a child rapist.
And the fact that because he was killed, now he wants to kill him.
Mm-hmm. But also, what I also love too is the way that the dream sequence is set up, like visually. Very beautiful. I love very creepy in parts. Like the part with the snow, when Nancy's in that part where she's in the snow and she's seeing the house. Yeah. I thought it was really great. And also, I do like the parts where they're like in the drugstore and it kind of goes back and forth between dream world and reality. Mm-hmm. I love that shit.
I do love that shit too. And I do love how they kind of do like that whole thing where they kind of bring a nursery rhyme book that kids read. And Freddy's fallen by that book. By how this nursery rhyme that kids read in reality he takes kids from parents. And he's going by that homage of, I'm taking your kids from you.
Yeah.
I do like that cleverness.
Well, and I also like the main guy who plays the Johnny Depp equivalent, Glenn, because I thought the guy was pretty sleazy as hell, and he's very intense in a lot of parts.
I don't know. This is where I'm going to disagree with you on this. This is where, like, my problems go. I just thought that a lot of the people that played in this film, I didn't like the actors and actresses.
Okay,
Nancy was really...
Okay, I'll give you Nancy. Nancy I fucking hated.
I didn't think that girl did good.
No, I agree with you on that. I hated fucking Nancy. I thought she was very dry, so fucking boring, and didn't deliver lines at all properly.
It just seems like you can tell she's acting instead of it being realistically like watching a film. You could tell she's trying to just, like, look for her lines.
Yeah, but I do like the other guy. I liked the Glenn equivalent that we had. I forgot the character's name, but I liked the guy who played the Glenn equivalent.
I like him, and I did like Kellen Lutz's little, 10 minutes of fame.
And I
like
actually,
his...
kind of mixed on the other guy.
I didn't care for Tina.
Yeah,
girl.
she was kind of boring.
I think she was just pretty much just brought in because she's blonde and hot. That was pretty much
I did like the other guy. Well, actually, now that I think about it, I did like the Rod equivalent where he's in prison and he's basically, stacking up with that other guy, that inmate. I did like that guy. I thought he was good.
Yeah, I mean, he's hit and miss. He's not in it much to really judge him too hard. For what he was given, he was all right. Yeah.
I do like also Clancy Brown, the principal.
Which we've seen on Pet Sematary 2, Shawshank Redemption. Yeah, he's played in a lot of stuff. He's going to be in the... he was also in Hail Caesar.
And some of you don't know, he also played Mr. Krabs off of SpongeBob.
Yep. So,
so I like him, but also what I do like too, what they did was...
I do like how the parents know, like, how these kids are finding out this.
Yeah.
So I did like that.
Now, really, my main problems is just, like, I thought the devs could have been a little more original because they did kind of reminisce.
Didn't you kind of like thought it was kind of anticlimactic where they brought him out in the world and they just slit his throat and he died? It could have been a lot better. Like I said, you remember that scene?
You showed me the original ending.
Didn't you think that would have been more clever? Where he's kind of like. He's got to live to be human again and reborn.
That would have been a better ending.
That would have been a better ending, but they fucking cut it that ending and said that, we just want his throat slit. I thought that fucking original theoretical ending was really anticlimactic.
It was. But I do like the other ending, like the other ending they have later in the film where it shows Nancy's mom look in the mirror and then fucking Freddy takes her in. I do like how it ends like that.
Alright, I want to give you my points on that. But there's an actual alternative people, like alternative. Check it out. You can find on YouTube. Sometimes, I don't know, I can't remember, it was on my DVD.
It was, I think it was.
But there's a scene, should have been the fucking original ending. This would have been clever, that when she pulls Freddy back into the real world, he was actually going to be in his human form, and then they reburn his ass, and make him suffer again for what he went through. And originally went through. I thought that would have been a fucking better fucking ending.
I'll give you that. It made it seem like, okay, yeah, when he's actually in his human form, that actually makes more sense.
Yeah, and then he has to feel the reburn feeling of him. Now, we get to the ending where we kind of do a different take. Instead of pulling the mom through the door like we get in the original, Freddy appears in the window in a mirror, and he sticks her through her face and then pulls her out. I love that. I just thought that the CGI, I watched it the other day, the CGI just... it would have been cool if they would have done practical a little bit. Yeah. If they could have hired a better CGI-ist that could have made it look kind of practical, because I do like it. I still want them to use that part, but I thought the guy who did the CGI for it was...
I disagree. I thought the CGI looked pretty fine. I thought it did, for what they used with it, I thought it looked pretty good.
They can do better. I disagree. If there's a better availability out there, they should have took that approach. Because I actually watched that scene again 2 weeks ago, and I mean, for the movie only coming out in 2010, we're in 2016, and it already looks outdated. That kind of bothers me a little bit. So
Wow.
I'm going. I'm going to go 7 out of 10.
I'm going to give it probably a 7.5. Like, I do commend the movie for at least doing something different. What we see in the Friday the 13th remake, and also the other Platinum Dunes remakes, because most of the Platinum Dunes remakes of franchises, they mostly suck.
They've been sucking.
But this one, I do at least commend them for, even though they took a lot of the same pretty much approach like the original film, they at least changed up with a lot of aspects that I do appreciate it.
And at least they did their own story and didn't carbon copy the original, which I praise. But again, Jackie Earle, I praise you for what you did in this film. I do think that you did better than what others could have done. I just think that I hate to say it, that Robert Englund owns the part still. That's his movie. I mean, he's the only one that's ever creeped me out. You didn't really creep me out too much, but you still did all right compared to other reboots I've been seeing.
Yeah. Now, basically, it's been announced recently that we're getting yet another fucking remake of the franchise, which I can understand you're trying to continue the franchise again with yet another reboot, but to me, I just feel like it's kind of pointless that you're remaking it twice.
Yeah, and we're not getting Jackie on this one.
Yeah, I realize that, but I'm just saying, it's like, okay, we already saw what they did with 2010, but it's like, why remake it again? You know,
I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I can understand you doing a sequel, but it's like you're remaking the same movie twice.
These movies are failing so badly that they're rebooting so fucking quick. We're going to get a reboot probably 2018, and that one's probably going to not be as good, and then we're going to get it in 2020. They need to stop this quickness. They need to give it a rest. I think that they should have just went ahead and tried to do a sequel.
That's what I'm saying, you know, because at least with...
It wasn't as bad as my all-time favorite slasher, did a poorly-ass fucking reboot, 2009's Friday the 13th. That one needs a reboot again.
Yeah. But this one, I can say, for what it is, it's not a bad film. It just, it's not up to par of, say, some of the later... It's at least one of the better reboots we've had in years. Because, for one, at least with the Nightmare on Elm Street film, for take it or leave it, they at least did something that was at least was more going into detail with from the original film, which I do like a lot. Yeah. So... That's really all we got. There'll be more retrospectives here we got coming up here. But until then, I hope you guys get... we thank you so much for everyone listening to our thoughts on the Nightmare on Elm Street films. And if you like what you see here, you can check us out on YouTube. And we'll be having more reviews coming up here soon. We'll see you guys later.
Later.